The Penrith Panthers are your 2024 NRL premiers for the fourth year in a row. Back-to-back seemed crazy just 5 years ago. When they achieved the three-peat last year, I thought this was absolutely the best team of all time. And yet again, when they were facing arguably their toughest opposition in a grand final to date, they did what Penrith have done for 4 years. They backed their defence. They outgrinded them against a Craig Bellamy Melbourne Storm side that was one of the hotter teams heading into a grand final that we had seen. I mean, this Penrith Panthers team, we all know what they've done. I mean, it's literally happening as we speak right now. They were somehow underdogs going into a grand final. That is how many people rated this Melbourne Storm team, and yet it didn't matter. We saw Nathan Cleary kick him to death. We saw the forward pack for the majority of the match dictate how the game was played, and like I said, no matter how good the Melbourne Storm spine is, if they can't get on the front foot against probably the best forward pack we have seen in the NRL era, then it doesn't matter. And they scored just one try from Melbourne Storm's best play, which actually, funnily enough, was the first try of the entire game. And that first half in particular, I mean the second half as well, but we rarely see a game, even if it is a grand final, live up to what we see in State of Origin. A lot of people, including me, say State of Origin is without a doubt the pinnacle of the game. It is the greatest viewing sporting experience in my opinion, and yet somehow these two teams, I guess it makes sense looking at their rosters and their coaches, but they made this feel like a State of Origin. That was the intensity to this match, so I just got to give a credit to all those players. And a bit like the Brisbane Broncos last year, the Melbourne Storm feel like they deserve to be a premiership winning team based what they did this year. They've just had to run into the greatest team of all time. And once again, throughout the season, a lot of people doubted the Penrith Panthers, and yet this first weekend, this first Sunday of October has ended the same way for 4 years. They get their revenge for the 2020 grand final, and what's so great about the way Penrith have built this dynasty, built the greatest modern sporting team we have seen, it isn't the Brisbane Broncos way of the early 90s. It's not the Sydney Roosters from just 5 years ago. This is a team that has built its foundations through junior development, and I guess it helps when you've got the best halves combo coming through your juniors at the same time. I guess that helps, obviously, but isn't that incredible that through all the talk about salary caps, player negotiations, player transfer markets, the Penrith Panthers have built this dynasty through junior development. And when you go through their roster of guys who now have been a part of the 4 competitions in the row, most of them are local juniors, and most of them, you could very well make the argument that they are the GOATs in their positions of the NRL era. And what is even scarier is that all those blokes aren't even 30 years old yet. I am just so grateful that we get to see this live, and at least for me, who's gone through uni studying sports media, who now has a job in the industry, it's been so good to be able to sort of cover this Penrith Panthers team. It's been absolutely remarkable. I'm so grateful I've been able to see and watch this team grow into what it has. And it felt like this was the weakest Penrith Panthers team. I mean, it felt like that last year, and it felt like the Melbourne Storm were the hardest oppositions yet. But defense wins premierships. What Ivan Cleary has done has put him in the GOAT coach conversation. When you look at statistics, he literally now has more premierships than Craig Bellamy, a guy who's been at the top for 20 years. In just a short space of half a decade, Ivan Cleary has pipped him for premiership trophies. And if you don't have Ivan Cleary in the top tier of coaches all time, then you are kidding yourself. And I think a lot of people hold that against Penrith because they haven't got longevity. But in my opinion, 4 premierships in a row is better than any longevity you can actually have. Now, before I continue to ride the massive cock that is the Penrith Panthers 4-peat, a lot of people are complaining about the Jack Howarth try, which would have tied the game with 30 minutes to go. From one angle, it looks like it is a try. From all the other angles, it looks like it is a no try. Ashley Klein obviously sent that up as a no try, meaning you need 100% video evidence to overturn it. Now, the beauty of me recording this video near midnight is that the NRL have already come out on the front foot and sent every single major media outlet footage that proves that that wasn't indeed a try. Now, we're obviously going to wait and see that, but for all the people who are going to discredit Penrith Panthers making rugby league history for that one call, first of all, grow up. Second of all, yes, it was a bad call if that was a try, but also there's obviously clear footage to suggest it wasn't a try, including Ashley Klein setting it up as a no try. And Penrith have just been that good that they have made Melbourne Storm the likeable team in a grand final. So what I would suggest for your own health and well-being, because I know the rugby league fan in 10 years is going to look back on this Penrith Panthers team so fondly, is right now, I suggest embracing it, because you're going to hate yourself if you 10 years you look back and you wish you actually enjoyed it. And I know it's boring, trust me. I didn't want these two to be in the grand final either, but there's something about this Penrith Panthers team, there's something about these players, and it's something about the way this organisation is run that I can't help but feel proud to be a rugby league fan watching this happen. And speaking of Melbourne, I don't think there was necessarily a bad player. I thought there were a few key players who went quiet at some crucial times. I don't want to be too negative. I did have some reservations around why Jerome Hughes, literally the best player all year, was not handing the ball of the game on the line. I know you got Cameron Munster there, but when Nathan Cleary was doing as good of a job in defence as he was, why not feed the hot hand when you have Luke Garner defending in the centres? I'm surprised Melbourne didn't attack that. I thought Pappenhausen really struggled to get into the game, but like I said, that is because Penrith's middles was so good, and I'm actually going to give credit a lot here to Melbourne's middles. I think if Nelson plays, this could be a completely different game, but at least for that first stint, the way Josh King, Tui, and Trent Leora were able to hold their own better than what even Payne Haas and Paddy Carrigan managed to do last year is simply incredible for those boys. I know they ended up losing it at the back end, especially late in that second half, but that is still a monumental effort for what had been the biggest question mark over Melbourne all season long. And I do think a lot of that is credit to, in my opinion, probably the second best player on the field, Harry Grant, and I would not be shocked if he was awarded the Clive Churchill Medal tonight. Liam Martin ended up with the award, and I truly think he deserved it. That second half, he was absolutely immense, but Harry Grant was simply phenomenal. He, in the first half, when Melbourne looked dangerous, the most dangerous they looked all game, it was him getting out of dummy half, creating momentum through the middle, and he made 59 tackles. The Penrith Panthers made it clear that that's what they were going to target Harry Grant early in defence. It's similar to what Cronulla did in the 2016 grand final against Cameron Smith. He scored that first try running straight through James Fisher-Harris and the Clive Churchill medalist. So if that doesn't show you how good Harry Grant is, and considering this was his first grand final, I'm so excited to see what the future holds for Harry and the entire Melbourne Storm. I don't think this is the place to be too critical of them at the moment, because like I said, I do think that they play most teams who have ever won the comp and probably get the job done based on what they've done this year. But it's just a shame they've run into a team of literal NRL goats. And speaking of one of those boys, Liam Martin, I mean, he was tied with Angus Crichton just behind him when it comes to how good they were in State of Origin. Liam Martin could have won the Wally Lewis medal, and while I do think Angus Crichton was the better player in Origin, I certainly would have been too shocked by it. He had an incredible second half, even the end of the first half where he scored that try off Nathan Cleary, but he was so dominant. Like I said, Melbourne just kept going to Cameron Munster. They kept going to Sean Bloor, trying to isolate Cleary, and every time they went there, it was Liam Martin coming up with just one epic tackle after another. His stats never tell the story, Liam Martin, but tonight they did, and if you ever want to know how impactful he can be, then just watch that game, because in one of the best grand finals of all time, it was him partnering Nathan Cleary as a back rower who walked away as the man of the match. And speaking of that man, Nathan Cleary, we'll get more into him in a different video, but 4 competitions in a row now. He feels like he's done most of them with a banged up shoulder. This bloke isn't even in his prime yet. He's one. Yo is putting himself in a bracket as one of the best players of all time when it comes to a middle forward. Jason Taumalolo revolutionized the game, and then it was probably like Jakey Travojevic, Victor Ali, those boys. Ivan Cleary took a fringe edge back rower center, made him the lock, and despite injuries to Nathan Cleary, despite me being critical of him through stages of State of Origin, he has completely turned his game into becoming an absolute beast. He's like a front row of the best ball playing skills of any lock in the competition. Dylan Edwards, again, looks safe as houses in an era where fullback is by far the most stacked position with the likes of Turbo, Teddy, who just won Dally M fullback, Kalen Ponga. Dylan Edwards sets himself apart again on the biggest stage. He just looks so comfortable. Looking back to his State of Origin series earlier this year, I can't believe a player in their first few Origin games looked as comfortable as he does, because he's basically played these big games more than anyone else in the entire comp. Isaac Tungo, I thought at some point with how good the Melbourne Storm's attack is down their edges, they were going to be looking lost without Stephen Crichton at some point in a grand final, where Stephen Crichton has made himself to be known as maybe Penrith's second biggest big game player behind Nathan Cleary, and yet Isaac Tungo, in a year where a lot of people have questioned his position in the side, produced his best game of the season. Jerome Luai was perfect once again, just doing what he had to, turning plays under, making the Melbourne Storm middles work, and making Harry Grant work. He is so unselfish, Luai. I can't wait to see what he can do at the Tigers when he can start being selfish. There are so many players we can credit because of this Penrith Panthers team. They are simply incredible, the best team of all time. And like I said, when you start looking at building the best NRL team ever in terms of actual players, you're going to need a lot of these Penrith Panthers players in there, because this is just one of the most incredible things I have seen in the modern era of sport. Commiserations to the Melbourne Storm. I mean, their fans, all two of them who actually live in Melbourne, aren't going to care anyway, but all you Queenslanders get stuffed. Another year, Penrith will be premiers, reigning and defending, and it almost feels like a lifetime. A kid will be going into primary school next year, only have ever been seen Penrith win the competition. But ladies and gentlemen, there are my quick thoughts on the 2024 NRL Grand Final. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I'll see you in the next one. And trust me, we've got still a lot to talk about.